Okay, welcome this morning. Welcome everyone. So this morning we're going to do a panel discussion on the experience of persons of color in the United States. So we have some distinguished guests. We've got Madison Yates coming in from St. John's in New York. She'll be one of the panelists, Virgil McDonald, Wanda Price, Stephanie Bird, and Milton Yates. So, yes, give them a round of applause for signing up for this. All right, and I'm Melvin Yates II. So thank you for participating. Thank you for joining. We also have some guests that came in just for this. So we're going to be doing many more of these different discussions on different various topics. Some dealing with, all dealing with different issues or concerns or opportunities in the community, not just race-related. There are a number of issues, socioeconomic issues, and so we'll be attacking and discussing in a healthy, positive way many of these topics over the next foreseeable future. So if we could first just maybe do an introduction. You can, if Madison wants to go first, and then we'll just kind of go down the line. Just a brief summary of maybe your name, kind of where you were born, what geographical region you were born in, and just kind of where you are now. Just a couple minutes. So go ahead, Madison. Do you want to go first?
Hi, St. Timothy's family. I hope you all can hear me well. I miss you all, and I can't wait to see you guys soon. My name is Madison Yates. I'm the daughter of Melvin Yates II, granddaughter of Sandra Yates, and I am currently at St. John's University, located in New York. I was born in Maryland, and I am a sophomore in undergraduate university, and I am majoring in legal studies with a minor in psychology.
All right, thank you for sharing.
I'm Virgil McDonald. I was born in the state of Florida. I attended college at Morehouse in Atlanta. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Kelly McDonald, and we had 3 children, and our oldest daughter passed away almost 20 years ago, and we are proud grandparents, and most of all, we are proud great-grandparents.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Wanda Edwards Price. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., educated in D.C. public schools, went to Howard University. I have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren, and I was raised in this church, I would guess approximately 30, 40 years. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Bird. I was born and raised here in Washington, D.C. I have 1 son, Ellis, who was raised here at St. Timothy's, as was I. And I am proud to not be a grandparent. I'm way too young for that. And I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you. Thanks for volunteering.
Good morning, peace and love. My name is Milton Yates. I am the brother of Melvin and son of Melvin and Sandra. I was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Temple Hills, and actually was raised in this church with my brother.
All right, thank you. You can hold the mic. And so a part of this is this discussion, this panel discussion, is not just to belabor the challenges of that persons of color have or have had and continue to have in this country, but also to highlight some of the successes and some of the and celebrate. So we're going to discuss a little bit about both and the resilience that it takes and progress in the community. We're going to share some stories. Typically when we have these discussions, there's a lot of There often is a lot of pain that comes about with these discussions. So we're going to share some stories of triumph, perseverance, and empowerment. And then we want to build bridges. We want to encourage open, respectful conversation and discussion. So we'll have some Q&A at the end. So we'll start with the first question. And since Milton has the mic, we'll start with Milton. And we don't have to go in order. So if someone wants to go out of order, if they have something that comes to mind, please share. So can you share a defining moment in your life when being a person of color in America shaped your experience positively or negatively? And it can be one experience or two experiences that shaped your life positively or negatively.
I would say this one would be in the middle. My first recollection of being in a room when I wasn't, where I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me was first grade. I was at the Sheridan School uptown by UDC, and I believe at the time I was the only black kid in a class of about 29, and it might have been one Middle Eastern child, maybe one Indian child. But other than that, I was the only black kid in the class, and it didn't really shape anything at the time, but I guess moving forward through private school, I understood that there wasn't a lot of us, or at least I didn't think there were. And I guess, being an adult looking back, I understand the positioning, but at the time I just was like, wow, where are all of us? Because I didn't ask my mom why I went to that school. I just went to the school, that's where she dropped me off. Right, so that's my answer for this particular question.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess for me it was a couple of things that happened during high school, but most poignantly, I was attending a program at the University of Maryland, and a group of friends and I were walking down Route 1, and someone yelled out of the car the N-word, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced racism at that level. And so I think that was the moment when I really became aware of my blackness in this world.
Thank you.
Okay, wow. I am going to talk about positivity. When I was growing up, I think I was about 10 or 12, my mom and Peggy, yeah, I know you're looking at me, sent Rosalind and I to Camp Wabana. And I really had a wonderful experience. There weren't a lot of kids like me, but probably a handful. And honestly, we felt inclusive. It was a Christian camp, and we had different type of activities. I was exposed to riding, archery, swimming, all of those. And then every night we had to learn a Bible verse. And some of those Bible verses I still remember. And then they asked us, are we saved? So although I didn't see a lot of people like me, and I knew that that was different, but I did feel inclusive with that camp. Roz, you can let me know if you agree or not, but I had really enjoyed it. And Carletta Shaw was there. We would spend 1 week, and Carletta would spend 2 weeks there. But that's how I developed my Christianity, because I didn't really knew what it was to be saved. So all of that experiences was a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like Wanda, I want to stay on the positive side. There's enough coming at us right now that I don't need to talk about that. I think it was fortunate that I grew up in a segregated society, knowing how cruel the world was at that time and continues to be. I had a family that was very loving, very supportive. The community was very supportive. And as I reflect over the years, the things that people did for each other in our community is absolutely amazing. The question that was most asked of a young person was, what are you going to be? Who are you going to be? And it made you focus on a goal and what you wanted to do in life. Further, when the graduation took place in high school, every organization in my community would pull together whatever money they had to offer scholarships. I guess at the time I recognized there was not a lot of money, but for people who earned like $40 a week, for them to throw some money in the basket to support us, I remember that so well, and I am thankful for that. I went off to Morehouse College, and they taught me that I am a man. I am a Morehouse man. I tell you, the message that I want to get across to this group, and I'll continue to preach it, is that we are not victims.
Amen. Amen.
We are people who have survived some of the worst treatment of humankind. And let's not let them push us into a bag of thinking they have us down. Remember all of the great things that have happened for you that your fellow brothers and sisters, African Americans, were responsible for.
All right, thank you. Now, Madison, you're up.
Okay, I'm also going to touch on the more positive side. I know that there can be many cons, many negative things that come with being a person of color, and especially in education. So I myself have faced some obstacles with talking to people or supervisors or people in a higher position in higher education, where they can be discriminatory or disencouraging of people of color, especially women that are people of color. So I think that in higher education, it is important to know that if you're a person of color in university, or getting the opportunity to get a higher education, that you also have the opportunity to persevere and push through all the barriers and obstacles that people can place in front of you, and to know that you can get the opportunity to become a trailblazer or a pioneer. So I think that being a person of color and having many obstacles, and people just, disencourage you about being successful, I think that it just gives you the opportunity to prove them wrong and to continue to strive for the best and strive for success each and every day. That you show up, just show up for yourself, show up for your family, the people that have supported you, and continue to push through those barriers and overcome those obstacles.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. And being that you're the youngest person on the panel, I want to give a part two to you, Madison. I would like you to share an experience that you did have that was not positive, because I think some of the older folks on the panel will have totally different experiences than a younger person on the panel. So if you have an experience to share that was less than positive, or even a negative experience, if you don't mind sharing. Or maybe your first experience, negative experience. Or pick one, doesn't matter.
My first negative experience was in kindergarten with race, that had to do with race. and I was the only black student in my class. Other than that, there was an Indian student in my class, and we were in a classroom full of white kids, and that's when I first found out about race and the difference between a white person and a black person. And during that negative experience, and it was actually pretty foolish looking back on it now, but it would be little things as like not being inclusive, kids not being inclusive, kids making fun of how I'm not the same shade as them, or I can't blush, my cheeks don't get as pink as theirs do. So that was probably my first negative experience with race, and when I did report that to my teacher, she didn't really understand where I was coming from and kind of told me not to be mean or rude to the students that were, which you could say, bullies. And that was my first experience with race. It did get better after my parents did confront the issue.
All right, thank you. And so since you already have the floor, we'll transition to the second question, which is, how's your upbringing geographically? You know, some folks on the panel grew up rural, some urban. How has your upbringing shaped your perspective on race, identity, and community?
You said, how has my upbringing shaped it?
Yes, how has your upbringing geographically, based in the DC area versus Alabama versus California, shaped your perspective on race, identity, and community?
I think that in Maryland, there are a lot of diverse, there's a diverse demographic there. There's a lot of people of the Black population and Hispanic/Latino population. So I think growing up, I wasn't necessarily always exposed to the white race or knowing how to handle that unless I was in an academic setting. So I think outside of that, so at home, you know, really close friends, wasn't necessarily exposed to that other than the academic setting. So you learn to navigate through that, knowing that you start school in pre-K. So you learn to navigate through that throughout your academic years. And so I think by the time that I learned to navigate, and kind of get my way through school with my white peers, I would say I was probably in 3rd grade, and knowing that you might not necessarily be able to act the same or talk about the same things, or they might not be able to understand you as much as your Black peers or your peers that are also people of color. So I would say that my upbringing has definitely taught me about the differences, especially at home, and knowing how sometimes people of color, how a lot of times people of color are treated when they are not in their own setting around more people of color. So being in an environment where you're the only Black person or the only female person of color or the only male person of color, I think that definitely shapes your experience pretty fast.
All right, thank you. Virgil. Again, just if I repeat the question, how's your upbringing geographically helped to shape your perspective on race, identity, and community?
Melvin, I think I addressed that earlier, but I would like to just piggyback on that. I heard over and over again from my mother when I was growing up, laugh and the world laughs with you. Cry and you cry alone. That taught me I don't care how you try to insult me, I'm not receiving it. So you can call me the N-word or anything else you want to call me. It's up to me to resist that. Now, I had some experiences. Before the Civil Rights Act, my brother and I were both in college. He was at Florida A&M and I was at Morehouse. And we went home for the summer and we needed a summer job. There was a new technical company opened while we were away. we both went there to apply for a job, and we were hired. About the third day on the job, I have to put this in, the white kids who were hired were all behind desks. My brother and I were on the back of the truck. So there came a time when they wanted to take a picture of their staff. And they called us in and come get in the picture. My brother and I communicated with each other without speaking. No way are we going to play that game. Well, as you can imagine, we got our first and final paycheck that Friday. And that was all right with me. And then years later, I'm representing the hospital, you know it as Greater Southeast, and we were in bankruptcy, and we were winning. And I walked into the room with other members of our staff, and the opposing attorney said, "Scumbag." And I smiled as broadly as I can, because brother, we are winning this case.
Thank you.
Amen. I like that.
Let's see, my upbringing, how it shapes who I am today.
Your perspective on race, identity,
Okay.
and community.
Let's see. Well, we grew up in Southeast or whatever, and right when we moved to the where my mom lived, on the left side of the family was Italians, correct? And then next to them were Italians, and then behind them again, I believe they're Italians. But we all played together. The kids played together. They were also a diverse community. We didn't talk about race. If we did as kids, we might argue a little bit, but then when it comes down to it, we were all friends. And to this day, my brother and Lou, which is a white Italian, are best friends. He was his best friend in his wedding, and they always keep in touch. But that was just a community of us, and we would play tennis and go to the rec center and things like that. But then when I got older and then visited Mississippi with my husband, and it was a different environment. I don't think I experienced anything that was, I just took it as, okay, they do it different here, down here. We were only there for a few days, and I said, okay, I'm going back home to DC. But nothing that really stick out of my mind. His mother grew up there, and we always asked stories. Can you tell us stories about living in Mississippi? And I really didn't get a definite answer from her, if it was bad or anything, but she enjoyed it, living there, and they will always live in the woods. I call it the woods, but with campers and what have you. But they didn't tell me anything that was, even to their kids. So that was it for me.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
I think my experience was similar to Wanda. And I think along with geography is time. So I grew up at a time when black was beautiful and there was Black Power movement. I grew up here at St. Timothy's where there were affluent blacks. I grew up down the street, went to Ann Beers. And so just was always surrounded by black excellence. And so that's what shaped, I think, my understanding of race and my identity. So that when I did go and experience other people, I carried that with me. And I'll give you a quick story of how you kind of just don't think about it. When you're surrounded by blackness, you don't think about whiteness. Every year my mother would send me to Cincinnati for the summer, and then when, at the end of the summer, my cousins and my aunts would come back here with me. And we were in the car one day, and I was driving, so had to be a teenager, and I was searching the radio for some music, and my aunt said to me, "Why don't you just go to the black station?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm pushing like 6 or 7 buttons," and I'm like, "These are all black stations." You know, but she was coming from Cincinnati, where there was one black station. And so that's kind of how I think your geography can kind of fashion who you are and how you see things. I think growing up here at the time that we grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 60s, we were surrounded by blackness, and we were surrounded by excellence. You know, Mr. McDonald, Miss Edwards, Desiree, Dr. DeFlormont. So just, I think when kids, it's kind of like Virgil said, you know, growing up in a segregated environment. While it wasn't segregated by law, it was segregated just by nature. We all just came together and we grew up in a black environment. And then later on went to Howard, and so it just kind of stamped that black excellence is who you are, and to seek black excellence in everyone that you see.
Thank you.
Good, thank you for sharing.
I would, I guess restructuring my answer after hearing these answers, I would put the emphasis on being a young black man in the educational environment where most of my counterparts were white, were non-black. I had to figure out what black was and determine whether I was black enough in the white environment to represent what black was, and then go home and figure out how to be black enough for those that did not go to a school like I went to. And many days I came home and it was, man, you talk white. And I was like, well, what's that? Because I'm just talking like I've been taught. Like my dad did not allow us to cut any words, endings of words off, or mumble at the end of a sentence. So because he didn't allow it, it didn't happen. And he also didn't allow anyone that came into our house or came into our yard or in our driveway, they couldn't say ain't or anything close to that. So it was interesting in that way. So I think that there is a turmoil that comes about when you're trying to represent your people in the right way, but you don't necessarily know what that is. I think that I grew up around black excellence. I may not have known the difference. It was all excellent, and I know one of my mom's thing was excellence without excuse. Like, it doesn't matter, you still got to be the best, or at least make an effort to be the best. So I don't think I knew what not black excellence was. I think everything was excellent around me that was black. But I also did not know who I was supposed to be in that. And I think there was a balance that I had to discover. And taking some of what I saw in the simplicity and the lack of material gain that was celebrated in the white communities, and what I would see on the Jordans of my peers, that I never owned a pair of Jordans since I was 4 years old, because my mom didn't put any emphasis on shoes. And that was similar to where I was spending my time. But in my neighborhood, everybody had J's on, and we were in Atonics. And we're like, you know, but that's, I mean, you know, that's called playing the long game, you know, so I'll cut mine short so you can go to the next question, but yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you for sharing. And I'll share just that, that dad, you know, our dad used to always say, growing up, that you have to be 5 times as good as your counterpart just to have a chance. Just to try to get on an even playing field. 5 times as good.
Yeah.
So,
said, I think that we grew up with that, right? That was the understanding of how you had to be. And so you grew up knowing that you just had to be the best in your class. You had to speak well. You had to always be represented. You're always representing your race. And that was a good thing.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. What challenges have you faced in your personal or professional life due to race or ethnicity, and how did you navigate them?
I think I addressed that earlier. And I feel very strongly that you cannot let anyone else define you. I don't care who they are. You have to decide who you are. And I, except for the few examples I gave you, in my career and in life, I've met people from across the globe. I worked primarily in public health. Many of the doctors were from China. Many of the doctors were from the Middle East. Some could barely speak English, and I guess one of the most flattering things to me was that I asked Dr. Khoury, I'll call his name, I said, where did you learn to speak English? He said, I'm learning now from you. So there are people in the world who don't see us as the picture is painted. Don't believe it. As has been said over and over again, some of the most outstanding people in my life have had complexions just like mine. And I am thankful to them and for them.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What challenges have you faced in your personal and or professional life due to race or ethnicity, and how did you navigate those challenges?
Okay, let's see. My personal life, we had moved to, I want to say it was District Heights, Maryland, and my daughter went to an elementary school, and she would only come home with one piece of paper for homework. So Rosalind, my sister, would say, I said, well, how much homework do you all have? And she will say, oh, her daughter has like science and math and what have you. So I felt that this school wasn't giving her all that she needed. So I had to move. We moved to another area in Maryland where I can give my kids the better education than she got in the other area that we lived in. And sometimes I would ask the teacher, why don't they give her more homework? And I guess the answer, they were actually attending to discipline. So disciplining meaning with the children. And I'm like, just one piece of paper, and it could be a math or English or whatever. But she didn't have, and this is only in elementary school, so she didn't have homework from each of those classes. So we moved, and I did see a big difference in the schools. It shouldn't be like that. They should really do better with that, but that's the personal experience that I have with education for my kids. Thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds like not just geographically nationwide, and then micro geographically within the area help shape the education for the children. Okay. Got it. What challenges have you faced in your personal or professional life due to race or ethnicity?
Okay, I would say a professional challenge. My example of this, it would be, I would add cultural to it because there's just a lack of understanding. So there was a time when I was the head strength and conditioning coach at Gonzaga College High School, which is an all-boys Jesuit, 9 through 12, down there by the Capitol building. My brother and I both went there, but I was the head coach at the time of strength conditioning. I was also the head wrestling coach, but Also, I was running a contract for Moet Hennessy in nightlife. And so I had a marketing background from Howard, management and marketing. And so I was into nightlife way deep, but I was also teaching at this Catholic, prestigious institution where, there's an aura of perfection and whiteness too, but more so perfection than anything. The challenges came about because I was standing on table and amongst smoke and drugs and alcohol between the hours of 10 and 4 in the evening, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. At 6:30 a.m. I was at the school with the lacrosse team doing the first workout. And after school I was with the wrestling team and the rest of the other programs doing everything I was supposed to do on time, and we're performing, we're winning championships. But then I get called in, just a lot of conversation about what our activities are allowed to be when we're not on campus. And that the kids have access to my social media, because my social media is not allowed to be public, not allowed to be private or inaccessible because of the career. So I can't be in entertainment and not have people access my content. So there were major challenges in me standing among celebrities, between entertainers and athletes and their lifestyle and this lifestyle that I'm being paid to have and promote as a job and career. I was challenged because it was being made to seem that I wasn't doing my job on I Street, but it was just a reflection of what I might have represented. But I think it really came down to them not understanding that someone like me could show kids who God was, or that they could see God through a person that doesn't look like what they think someone that represents God looks like. And that's important because black kids don't see representation in Christian religion much. If they're in educational environments that aren't diverse. And so just having that identity, and then kids that were on the campus being able to see someone like me doing the things that I was doing at the school, but then on the outside, and still being able to represent a godly man, I think is important. And there's just not enough examples of that. Because most of the time when we're in the streets, we're in the street all the way. We're not just in the street for the sake of it being a career or something that we are supporting our family with. And there's no way to tell the difference unless you know the human. So I think that would be my biggest challenge professionally.
Okay, thank you. And Madison, what challenges have you faced in personal, professional, I guess working on professional, due to race or ethnicity, and how did you navigate those situations?
In a professional/academic setting, I think I have faced challenges through my academic advisor. So my advisor in college currently is a white Italian male. And I think I faced certain challenges from him, kind of undermining, and I'm sure as many of you have, if you have experience in higher education, then people often, your white counterparts, and even sometimes other people of color will undermine your intelligence and undermine your capability to achieve things and accomplish things in school. So I faced a challenge from him where I was talking about taking classes over the summer, and I was talking about minoring in things, and he just kept emphasizing me, oh, that's really, really, really hard. And people will say that and give you advice, but he just kept focusing on how hard it would be for me. And as a person that gets straight A's in college, I don't think that he should be talking about what would be really, really hard for me. So I think that, of course, it can depend on your situation, but a lot of people will undermine your intelligence. And I think, again, just to navigate that and overcome that, you have to keep pushing and you have to keep showing them that you can achieve anything, and that's with God. and that's with prayer, and that is with, you know, discipline, and just proving to yourself and not only these people, but that you can overcome these obstacles and that nothing can be hard, you know, as long as you are disciplined and that you really want what you're achieving. So I think, yeah, that's kind of how I face and overcome academic challenges when it comes to people undermining, you know, your ability to do things in the academic setting.
All right, thank you. That was it, everyone, we got everyone on that? Oh, Stephanie.
So, can you hear me? So I always tell a lot of stories, so sorry about that. But I was at an event yesterday, and I said to the group that I was sitting with, I work at a school. And so later on, I was talking to someone who said, oh, so do you live near the school where you teach? And this goes to Madison's point. I'm not a teacher. But the assumption a lot of times is that you are what some people think they want you to be. So like a challenge for me has been facing mindset. And that's not just the mindset of white people, but it's the mindset of black people as well. And I heard some of it in what Wanda was saying, because I'm a principal of a school. I heard some of it in what Wanda was saying, in that people look at little black boys, little black girls, and they think, let's make them comfortable, let's not challenge them. They are what I think they are. They can only do but so much. And we want to break that cycle, thank you, and expect the very best. And we know that all children, if we believe that all children can learn at the highest level, then we also believe that all adults can achieve at the highest level. And so you're constantly battling this mindset that, oh, just because little Malik comes to school from far southeast, he may not be able to do what Imogen can do, who lives on Capitol Hill and has 2 parents. But the reality is that Malik could probably far exceed, because he comes from a genealogy that has proven that. So it's just battling people's perceptions and people's mindsets, and making sure that, and I love to see it and hear it. That's why I say I work in a school, and I don't put out all of my accolades out there, because it's like, let me see what you're gonna do with it. And I'll slide it in where it's necessary. Or I'll just let you be where you are. Because I think that, going back to your other question, that's how I was raised, right? So I was raised to be confident in who I am as a black woman, and there's nothing that no one can take from me because of that, right? So I can have, people don't know, but I have a degree from Georgetown, I have a degree from George Washington, I have a degree from Howard University. But I don't tell people that, because I want people to know me for who I am. And none of that really matters. So if that means battling someone's perception, then, then so be it. And some people would just let them be where they are with their understanding of who a black woman is and who a black woman can be.
Thank you for sharing. And I'll say with that, St. Timothy's is a very special place. I think everyone who's a member here and everyone who visits St. Timothy's knows that. But I just want to, really stand on that. St. Timothy's is a really special place. Growing up here, when my parents were married here, my brother and I were baptized here, and being a member, I'd say for 52 years, seeing excellence, black excellence, particularly here, is I think very special. So I want to really applaud all of you all as the members that have created this environment to raise all of us here in this church. So thank you. Next question: what role has faith, family, and mentorship played in your personal growth and success? Since you have the mic,
Okay, we'll go back to what you were saying. Yes, Faith, St. Timothy's has grow me up or tutor me or teach me things that I know what I can be. My father will always say, Wanda, talk to this parishioner. She works at the Library of Congress. Go down to the Library of Congress and see her and go through the Library of Congress and have her to help you with your homework or whatever. I think we had someone at St. Timothy's that was the Department of, was it Education? I can't think of her name, but Department of HUD. Yeah, she passed some time ago. But my father would always say, talk to this person, talk to Stephanie's mom that worked at Howard. So St. Timothy's parishioners always see that excellence, and that helped me to grow as a young woman, helped me to teach my children and have them to grow as young women, and always trying to achieve higher those standard of excellence. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So Virgil, what role has faith, family, and or mentorship played in your personal growth and success?
It's been awesome in my life. I grew up at Allen Chapel AME Church in Sanford, Florida. I remember my first teacher. Her name was Miss Adrena Green, and we used to get a little card with the lesson on it, and I remember her to this day. I can remember growing up and being required to be at Sunday school in the morning, go back to what we call league in the evening. In the meantime, we would have had a dinner made of macaroni and cheese, collard greens, fried chicken, and my dad used to always churn ice cream. And he insisted that he pack it for several hours so it's hard before we could eat it. That was the cruelest thing I ever heard. I wanted to eat that ice cream right then and there. Morehouse College was a Baptist college. We went to chapel every day. St. Timothy's, we came here in the mid-1960s. It was predominantly white, but they made a commitment that they were going to welcome African Americans into this church. And we had a great relationship among the two races, between the two races. And some of those folks we are still in touch with them, even though they are not here. I cannot give up the mic without referring to Reverend Todd's message this morning. There's a lot coming at us right now. It's all designed for chaos. I think we need to think a little bit farther than where we are right now. Elon Musk's access to all of the files at Treasury, access to our Social Security numbers, our bank account numbers. I've long felt that the biggest heist in the history of the world could take place because we have computers. I think we need to think positive, but we need to think. I am not a wealthy man, but I check on the few dollars I have in the bank quite often. Because I'm afraid that if I don't take some action, that one of these days that money may not be here. Kelly told me the other day that Elon Musk is on the brink of buying him a country for $280 million. He bought Trump. Trump has turned everything over to him. And this guy could walk away owning the United States. Now, the other part that Father Todd talked about this morning was the nap. You've got to get away from it. And while you're away from it, you've got to come back refreshed and prepared to fight. You know, Jesus Christ was not a person walking around saying prayers all day. He went into the temple and he fought. We do have a fight. Get your nap and be ready to fight.
Fight some more. That's right. All right, Madison, do you want to go next? What role has faith, family, or mentorship played in your personal growth and success?
So firstly, I'm going to start off with family. If anyone doesn't know, I have a very, very big village, and I am very appreciative for that. It doesn't happen to everyone, and so I'm very thankful for the village that I do have, because not only am I able to get a variety of perspectives, I'm always getting amazing advice from my family. They support me emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and I'm just forever grateful for my family and all that they do to support me each and every day. They do push me to be a very, very successful woman. They have set up they've set up nothing but, an opportunity for success for me. So I am very grateful for that. For faith, not only God, but St. Timothy's, they continue to support me academically and spiritually. And I do love St. Timothy's. I've been with St. Timothy's for a very, very long time, all my life, and all my life this far. And I'm just very grateful for the community that I have around me.
Awesome, thank you.
All your life, Madison. That was good. And y'all laugh when I say it, so I know what this is when she says it. So my answer to this would be, so faith, yes. 2 years ago, or a little bit more than 2 years, this would be my 3-year anniversary coming up, I converted to Islam. And I think that, the base word of discipleship is discipline. And I think I learned, a spiritual discipline that was intentional from my parents in just the routine of going after a relationship with God. And I think that relationship will come in all forms, and we cannot tell a human how to pursue God, but we can tell them that they need to. And that can be our discipleship. That can be how we minister to those that we may not agree with how they serve God, but we do agree that we do need to serve him, and that he is the ultimate power for us. And I think that example was given to us on and on. We were at church every Sunday. We were in the youth group. Every Friday we had ecumenical services at various churches around the area. We had great relationships with those kids, lifelong relationships. But again, all of the success of any of us was based on relationships and also just being consistent. And I did, learn that, I think, inside of these walls, but then inside our household. My mom was very consistent, just consistent in her discipline, in her thinking, and it could seem stubborn at times, but that consistency led to results later. And it was about playing the long game. It wasn't about instant gratification. And I think that spirituality is the same. Spirituality is a long game. And you have to trust that your decisions at every turn of the day will lead you to this great place of in relationship with God and others. And I think that was built, here and inside the family. So, we don't know where we'll end up in how we pursue God, but how we are introduced to God makes a difference. You're introduced to God, and I was introduced to God in this building. So I think that that's important as we minister to those outside of this place and bring in new members. As Melvin is trying to help grow this congregation. I urge you to talk to everyone and bring everyone closer to God. And even if they don't make this their church home, you've done a great thing by opening their eyes to the greatest thing in the world, God. And that's it.
Amen.
I gotta go.
Thank you. And thank you. Milton has to go coach. Thanks, Milton, for participating. Thank you. Thank you, girl.
When I was in third grade, one day I was walking home and some kids were following me and taunting me. I was no victim. I had done some stuff. And so I just walked quietly and let them walk behind me and, whatever. Then I got to the place where my mother was, and I turned around and I let them have it. All the curse words, all the attitude, all the, come on, let's do this. And my mother came out and she said, Stephanie, you don't have to say a thing. And my mother also, she knew me. And then that happened, and then the next Sunday we went to church and my mother was talking to Father Tolliver, and she was telling him that, this girl is a bit much. And he said, well, she's a great leader, or she's going to be a great leader. And I share that to let you know that the influence of family and being in a church on a consistent basis where people know you, like Milton said, it's about relationships. Those times always, those two incidents always stick out in my mind because I am can be a little bit too much. But I always remember my mother's words being, you don't have to say anything. And so, and you can be a leader, you can be who you want to be, but you really don't have to respond to everything that comes your way. When the time is right, you can say what you have to say. It's better to be, It's better to be asked to stand up than it is to be told to sit down. And that's kind of been my faith journey, and that's kind of been the lesson that I've taken, that, you can be quiet, you can be filled. St. Timothy's, there have been many, many, many mentors. I heard Virgil talk about his first teacher. I can look over here and I can see Desiree, who was one of my first teachers. I think about Tanya, her mother was one of my first teachers. Sandra Yates was one of my first teachers. I remember when Gretel James, I was in college, minding my business, doing my thing, probably being too much. And Gretel James, out of the blue, called me and said, you're going to Arizona to represent the Girl Scouts. And I was like, no, I'm about to go do this thing here. And she was like, yeah, you're gonna go. And so just many, being at St. Timothy's, being a part of a church family my entire life, offered a lot of opportunity to grow in my spirituality, but also to grow in my family and my sense of who I am and my sense of community. And that has led me to believe that no matter what we face, we're going to be okay, right? There are going to be some hard times. There will be things that don't always go as you expect. But in the end, as a community, we have a community here who's going to support and love you, and it's going to be okay. So that's kind of my take on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. One, two. You covered that? Okay. All right, next question. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of this and getting this perspective. Different perspectives. And again, this is just one of many of these type of panel discussions that we'd like to do on a consistent basis, at least monthly, on different topics. So more coming soon. Okay, what are some of the biggest misconceptions or stereotypes about people of color that you've encountered, and how have you addressed them? Who wants to go first on this one?
Since I'm holding.
Okay, all right, Stephanie.
Yeah, it's just that, I think we spoke about it a little bit earlier, that idea that, and I think we're seeing it with what's going on in the world, that just because you're not white male, maybe you're not as good, right? And so this idea that of mindset, and that people are looking and saying, you have to prove to people who you are, and that you're qualified to be a valuable member of this society. I think that's been the challenge.
Thank you.
Okay,
Some of the biggest misconceptions or stereotypes about people of color that you've encountered, and how did you address them?
let me let Mr. McDonald talk.
We'll come back, we'll come back.
Mine is simple. The misconception is that I am black. In reality, I'm white.
All right, Madison, do you want to, Madison, do you want to go down next? What are some of the, that's my. What are some of the biggest, what are some of the biggest misconceptions or stereotypes about people of color you've encountered, Madison, and how have you addressed them?
Some of the biggest misconceptions that I have faced have to do with ignorance, like in stereotypes, not just with our white counterparts, but also I've come across foreign people that have also believed in these stereotypes and the propaganda. So I would say the stereotypes would be things varying from us not being educated, and something that Milton, my uncle, touched on was about speaking white, so not being able to properly explain yourself or have the ability to have a good vocabulary or high intellect. So I would say that's another thing. I feel like a lot of the stereotypes, and also I would say also money as well, that you know, you have to be, and I would say I hear this like a lot of the time, just the assumption that every black person you see is struggling or has a struggle. I would say that's another thing that I feel is a big misconception, is that, you know, every time you see a black person, they must be struggling, whether it is financially, academically, emotionally, that they are living with a struggle. So I would say that's another big misconception. And to navigate them, most of the time I address it directly and have a conversation. I have conversations with my friends all the time, and we talk about these things. As a group of Black and Caribbean people, we talk about the struggles that not only we face, but how people will see us and how that changes our perspective on a lot of things. So I would say that we talk about it, and we talk about why they might see that perspective and how to go about correcting that. So yes.
Thank you. And just was there a specific misconception or stereotype that you experienced, particularly, say at St. James or at St. John's?
I would say a stereotype that I often faced, that I faced in high school when I was in boarding school. I was one out of 4 Black women in my freshman class, and I would say there was over 300 people in my whole entire school. So I was one of 4 Black women in my freshman class, and a stereotype I often faced was that I was ghetto, and that was simply because of my braids and lip gloss. And people wondering, oh, well, how'd you get in this school? And you know, and so that was interesting, and foreigners coming to me and also wondering the same thing, like, how are you, like, you know, we understand, but how are you here at this school with other people who are majority white and Asian? So I would say that's a stereotype that I often face and have to say, you know, correct them and ask them what about braids is ghetto to you? And you know, a lot of that is propaganda, and I even faced that from some of my other black counterparts that were male, and it was just, you know, a lot of, I would say, brainwashing and just taking it from, you know, hearing things that your white counterparts or your counterparts are saying to you and kind of just agreeing with it unknowingly. Like, you know, conditioning you to believe that these things are like, oh, stereotype, like, oh, certain things are ghetto and certain things are more proper. So I would say that's something that I face, a misconception, is that just because I had braids or just because I wore lip gloss made me ghetto and made me unfit for that particular setting.
Thank you. Wanda, did you want to?
Oh, I'll be quick. Just going back to what everybody was saying, that sometimes if I go to Indiana during the summer to visit my grandmother, and they'll have this perception of, you know, oh, you talk differently because you live in DC, or you sound like you're white, and sometimes, you know, some people will say that as well. But right now in the political climate that we're in, you know, sometimes what I've seen recently, I was in a store, and these two Hispanic men were there, and another Caucasian lady was saying that they were following them. I kind of find it hard to believe, because I looked and they were just by themselves. So she was really nervous and everything. She left the store. Someone escorted her outside, but I looked and I'm like, these are two men of color, and they were just minding their own business. So I see a lot of that too. And then my husband had an experience. It was years ago, probably 15 years ago. He was in Baltimore in a what you call it, flea shop or? Flea market, yes. And he said the man was looking at him and he thought he was, you know, gonna steal. And he said, as he was watching me, my husband said, I noticed the other guy, which was white, that was stealing. And he said he just kept on letting him follow him and then left the building. And he said, yeah, you too busy watching me, but the other guy over there was stealing. So, you know, every day we have perceptions, and you know, we just have to be patient and cautious, because sometimes it's not what we actually think it is. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And our 75 minutes is almost up, so we're going to bring this to a close. This is the last question that we may have time for just a couple of questions from the audience. But on this last one, what message would you give, and since you have the mic, you can go first, Wanda. What message would you give to the next generation of leaders of color about embracing their identity and shaping the future?
Question or statement? Or
Either.
message?
Yeah.
Education, read, know your history, and also make sure that you tell your loved ones, tell your kids and generation. I think we're doing that now, but we don't want to get it lost in translation.
Thank you. Stephanie, what message would you give to the next generation of leaders?
I would say, like Wanda said, know your history, and in that, know that you come from survivors. Not just survivors, but you come from people who have thrived under the worst conditions, and that that's in your DNA, right? So there really is no excuse, because despite all of the efforts to keep us down, we continue to thrive. Every industry that we go, every area that we go into, we end up being on top. We are often overachieving in education, in science, in business, of course in sports, as you all know. But every door that we step into, we outperform, we outshine everyone. And that's your history. Like, that's where you come from. That's what's in your blood. And so it's, there's just no excuse, right? So even if life is hard and life is hard and life is uncontrollable. There are things that happen. Rely on your community and know that your community will uplift you. And if you're in a community that's not uplifting you, find another one, because we're out here. But that would be my message, basically, that you could be anything that you want to be. Believe it, know it, look at your history and know that others have done it, and it's possible.
Thank you. Virgil?
I just want to say I totally agree with Wanda and with Stephanie. They've made great points.
All right, thank you. Madison, what message would you give to the next generation of leaders?
The next generation of leaders, I would say first to know your rights as a person of color and especially as a Black person. We've seen countless times from our ancestors to now, our elders to now, where government, law enforcement, all types of, people in high positions of power try to take advantage. So I would say know your rights. Secondly, as to what some of the other panelists said, know your history. We come from a long line of resilient, strong-willed, powerful, sometimes even royalty. We come from a long line of success in Black history, so I would say know that. And also continue to educate. You can often, and I know it's hard, especially now, but you can often battle ignorance with education. And so I would say, the people that can be ignorant to you, or the people that you thought were your friends or peers that have ignorant perspectives, have a conversation. Conversations actually help with a lot of things, and it can help see perspectives or educate your counterparts, or they may even be able to educate you as well. So I would say sit down and have those conversations, and don't be afraid. There's a lot of people that have things to say about the Black race, a lot of communities, not just white, that have a lot of things to say about the Black race. And we have to know that we have to continue to support not only ourselves, but our community, because nobody else is going to do it except us. So we have to continue to uplift our community and ourselves and our other fellow people of color.
Awesome, thank you, Madison. So we can take maybe two questions. If anyone has a question for a specific panelist. Oh, Michaela.
Madison.
Hold the mic up. No, stand up.
When you're going places, do you ever get any looks or anything? Or anything that makes you feel a type of way?
I can't even hear what she said.
She said when you're going places, do you ever get looks or anything from people or anything that makes you feel a type of way?
I would say in New York, it's kind of hard to get looks, but sometimes when you come across white foreigners or tourists that are white, you do sometimes get looks, but New York is a melting pot. But I would say when you go to the rural places of Maryland or the gentrified places of GC, then you will get looks. And oftentimes I just stare back. Honestly, I just stare back because, there's just nothing else to say. I just stare back. And if they look at me nasty, then I look at them nasty back, and I just go about my day. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Michelle. Did you?
Yeah, I'll just add, how can they not look? Right? Right. Especially her. She's gorgeous. And just like you, right? They're going to look. They can't help themselves but to look at you. And just, what do you do with that, right? How do you interpret that? You might think you might be fearful and think that they're looking out of hate, but they're looking and wondering how you can be so incredible, knowing what they have in mind for you, right? So just whenever, if ever that happens to you, just know that they can't help themselves but look at you, because you're fabulous.
All right, thank you. All right, and as we close out, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank Father Todd for allowing us to host. Thank the men of St. Timothy's as well, and thank the panelists. Let's give a round of applause. And again, we're just going to continue to have these kind of conversations, to continue to uplift and bring us all together and educate and grow the congregation, grow the community. So we have a lot of visitors too today. If you came today for the first time, if you want to just stand up, if you don't mind, I know you don't want to. They did that in church. Oh yeah, Chris is in church, and Aaron, Zikaran. So yeah, so thanks to some of the visitors that came, and thanks guys. All right, thanks again.